Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, before we get into today's video, there's a couple of things I would just like to quickly address. Number one, obviously with the amount of anti-SNP videos that I make, I am subject to an awful lot of abuse, predominantly by the Nats. It tends to be abuse because I'm apparently English and I know nothing about what I speak about. So I just very quickly want to address that. I'm not English. My parents are not English. There is not an English bone in me. Ignore the accent. I can't help that. And why do I have an interest in Scotland? Well, can you guess? Also, my wife's family come from Greenock. And so that's another reason why I have an interest in Scotland. And I will just say, up the Jags. So that is why. So when you get these abusive emails, when I get them, the abusive comments, I do tend to just delete them because some of them are just utterly awful. I've got thick skin. I don't care. And to anyone who leaves comments like that, I have a perfectly formed, handcrafted gift for you. But you can come after me if you like, I don't care. But the other ones that are just basically complaining about it, I do make a comment and explain that I'm not English and that they are you know, obviously showing up what they are. And it's predominantly, like I say, the Nats. So anyway, that's out of the way. I just wanted to get that one sorted. The other thing is, what I would ask is anyone who watches this channel on a regular basis, I would ask you to subscribe. And the reason is, and this was a conversation I had with someone last night, actually, and they said it would be brilliant if your channel had more subscribers than the SNP had. He said it would give a legitimate voice. It would then become a massive community. Then could challenge them, and we could form, you know, an opinion against every single member of the SNP, and we can hold them all completely up to the light and see what they are. So if you are a regular viewer, do please hit the subscribe button, help the channel grow, and we'll move on. Anyway, that's out the way. Thank you very much for your indulgence there. Let's move on to this video, which is all about an Ipsos poll that has been released. At the time of recording, it was released about 2 hours earlier than I am here at the moment. I've just been looking at it and going through and then prepping up for this video. And what it's showing is, in the country, Forbes is leading. She is, and I use the term most popular advisedly. She is the least unpopular, shall we put it that way, and then Humza is the second least unpopular in the country, with Regan coming a long way third. But the country, of course, doesn't matter so much. It's all to do with the SNP members and their votes. And in that way, Yousaf is leading in the polls by a small margin, but he is leading. However, the insider source that I had, who told me the other day that this poll was coming out, and which is why he knows the answers, and which is why I said the other day that it looks increasingly like Forbes has got it. He's explained why, and we're going to have a look into this Ipsos poll and the numbers, and then what they mean, and then I will tell you why my source says that Forbes should get it. It should be tight, but he says Forbes should have it. She has the numbers. But here goes, we'll have a look at this Ipsos, and we will compare the three and see what the general feeling is. And there is a rather surprising thing considering, but we'll have a look at these. So here's the poll, and it says a tight race between Yousaf and Forbes among the SNP voters, and this was surprising. Sturgeon's ratings are up now. On Monday, when she officially hands over at the announcement of the new leader, that will be Sturgeon will have been in power for 3,050 days. Now that is a long time for any leader to be in power anywhere, but 3,050 days, and she can't point to anything that's been successful or good or improved lives of people anywhere generally. But it's very weird that her ratings are up. That was astounding. But anyway, the latest Scottish political pulse polling conducted by Ipsos in Scotland between the 17th and 21st of March on the Scottish National Party leadership race and the favourability towards the Scottish political leaders. And so that's what this is. So new polling conducted by Ipsos Scotland between those dates finds that the Scottish public are more favourable towards Kate Forbes than towards Humza Yousaf, although none of the three candidates for First Minister receives a positive approval rating, which is why I said in the intro, it's still talking about the least unpopular rather than anyone who's actually popular. When it comes to the SNP voters, views are much closer, with 38% favourable towards Yousaf and 37% favourable towards Forbes. Nicola Sturgeon remains the most popular Scottish party leader, ahead of all her potential successors, and her ratings have improved since February when she announced she was going. Now, I have said on this channel many times, much as Nicola Sturgeon is awful, much as she is a terrible, terrible person, much as her policies are destructive, when it comes to being an actual politician, playing the game of politics, Nicola Sturgeon is truly excellent at this. You cannot deny that she is absolutely on the game when it comes to playing hardball politics. She does know it. And she is, head and shoulders above anyone else in the SNP when it comes to being a leader. She's an awful person. She's, but she is really the best they have. And she's forced out because of a mixture. I mean, she's claiming it's this, that and the other. There's 100 reasons. But the real reasons are that all these things are coming out about the missing monies, about the falling memberships. And she used the gender recognition thing and the Westminster and all that as a smokescreen, because there's many things that are going wrong behind the scenes. The extra 200 million on the ferries scandal, for a start. I'd like to see where every single penny of that went. Because I'm pretty sure, and I'm saying it's an if, and I'm not saying it's anything that is true. Of course, I'm covering myself, but it would be unsurprising. I certainly would not be surprised if, on the odd chance it may be, that some of that money ended up in the hands of someone who shouldn't have had it, and who's now resigning. That's where I'm going to be very bland, not making an accusation, because I like my house and I want to keep it. But anyway, Nicola Sturgeon is still the most successful, the most popular amongst these people, because none of them are popular. They all have more disapproval than approval, but we'll see that anyway. Nearing 3 in 5 of the public say they have been following news about the SNP leadership election closely. Yes, because it is car crash television. You can't avert your eyes. You're watching these people stand there. I mean, they're slating each other off. They're running down each other's records in Parliament. They're running down their own party. And when you're seeing that, it's delicious to watch. And you know that whoever wins is going to be standing there as the winner, but having all those people around them knowing that they've failed and the areas in which they've failed at, and having their souls laid bare before the nation. You couldn't not watch it. That's why it's so good. Anyway, moving on. Kate Forbes is currently more popular among the Scottish public than Humza Yousaf, although none of the candidates to replace Nicola Sturgeon has a positive rating among the public. Forbes has a net favourability score of -8, with 27% of the public saying they have a favourable opinion of her and 35% unfavourable. So she's not the most popular, she's the least unpopular. Humza Yousaf's net score is lower at -20. She's at -8. He's at -20, and Ash Regan is at -24. She's got zero chance of winning. However, Ash Regan will be the kingmaker, and I'll come to that in a minute. 13% of the public say they don't know enough to rate anyone, or rate her anyway. Ratings of Yousaf and Forbes are closer among SNP voters, however. Yousaf has a net score of +11 with the SNP voters, 38% favourable, 27 unfavourable. Forbes' rating is +6, 37% favourable, 31% unfavourable. Ash Regan receives a net score of -7, even among the SNP voters, with only 22% favourable and 29% unfavourable. They've written favourable, they mean unfavourable there. So, I mean, Ash Regan, no way, cannot become leader, and that isn't an issue. We knew that from very early on, that she was unlikely to do this. However, she is very important. So, views on the SNP leadership candidates. We're going to go and do some number crunching now. So there's the breakdown. So we see here views of SNP leadership candidates. There's the breakdown of the numbers just crunched. I'm not going to go into that because we've just discussed them. But I will say that even here, if you look here at -7, 2021 SNP voters, 10% of the SNP voters haven't got a clue about Ash Regan. You'd think they would know, being their own thing, but 10% of them don't even know. So she is a non-entity in terms of the race. So that's not going to happen. Anyway, the view of the political leaders. Nicola Sturgeon remains the most popular of the Scottish and Westminster political leaders included in the poll. Her ratings have improved compared with Ipsos's previous poll taken on the 30th of January to the 1st of February. She is also viewed much more favourably than any of her potential successors. And like I say, I mentioned it before, none of them can stand up and hold a candle to her in terms of her political ability. Her policies are always wrong. She always makes the wrong decisions. She always sides with the view that is against the vast majority of people, but she plays the game well. But going into it, 46% of Scots have a favourable opinion of Nicola Sturgeon, while 38% have an unfavourable opinion. And given her a net favourability score of +8, which is higher than the net neutral score recorded in Ipsos's previous poll, she's actually gone up. But I think a lot of that will be the softening because of her announcement that she's retiring. 77% of SNP voters have a favourable opinion of her, more than double the result for any of the three leadership candidates. So within the SNP, she is more than twice as popular than anyone that's going to follow her. And that should strike fear into all three candidates. If she, who is going because of the internecine fighting, the factionalism, the problems that are coming up in the future, I mean, she sees what's coming and she knows, and she's clearing out, I mean, she's getting out of Dodge before the shit hits the fan, isn't she? Anyway, Rishi Sunak's ratings among Scots have improved a little, very weirdly, and this is one of the surprising things, although they remain low. 57% of Scots have an unfavourable opinion, with only 20% favourable, but that is up from the last time. You wonder how. Anyway, Douglas Ross, I mean, I suppose, and now I'm not a Conservative, I'm not a member of the Conservative Party. My views are on sort of finances slightly right of centre, on social issues slightly left of centre. I'm a very centrist person. I can see both sides. I like I say, I think common sense in terms of keeping the public purse, you've got to go slightly right. But when it comes to people, you've got to be slightly left. But don't go too far left. That only hurts. But slightly left, and that's fine. But as someone who is that sort of centrist and very slightly to the right, even I can't stand Rishi Sunak, and I absolutely hate Hunt. I think the Tory party at the moment are just the Labour Party in a blue suit. But they are... they're a bunch of amateurs. They haven't got a clue either. So, I'm very surprised that Sunak's position has gone up in Scotland. Anyway, Douglas Ross has a similar low net favourability score. Just 15% are favourable towards the Scottish Cons leader, with 54% unfavourable. There are, strangely, an awful lot of Conservative voters in Scotland. It's just that they're not concentrated anywhere high enough to affect any kind of result. They get very few seats, But opinion on both Scottish Labour leader Anna Sawar and the UK Labour leader Keir Starmer remains divided. And that's not surprising. They're both sort of divisional politicians. And again, these are numbers. I'm not going to go into the numbers. They're rather unimportant. But the view of Scotland's political parties. The SNP remains the most popular of Scotland's parties, although no party receives a positive net score among the public. The SNP receives a net score of -1, so it's the least unpopular, while Labour score -4. The Scottish Greens and Scottish Liberal Democrats are both on -14 and -22 respectively, and the Scottish Conservatives are -42, with just 15% of Scots expressing a favourable view of the party and 57 unfavourable. No surprise there then. And now, what are people paying attention to? Now, this is very telling because we know that Sturgeon has been pushing these green issues, the two green issues that were core to maintaining power because of the voting agreement that they had with the Scottish Greens, and that was that bottle deposit return scheme and the Gender Recognition Act. But the Scottish people don't care. 58% of the Scottish public say they've been following news about the SNP leadership election closely. And for comparisons, 87% say they've been closely following news about the cost of living and 71% about the NHS in Scotland. These are the two big issues. 49 say they've been following news about the Gender Recognition Act closely. That doesn't mean they agree with it. In fact, quite the opposite. Most Scots, in fact, disagree. But what's important to Scotland is the cost of living crisis and the NHS. These are two issues that are not being addressed by any of the candidates. All they're pushing is the independence. And so, don't hold your hope that anything is going to improve anytime soon. Emily Gray, Managing Director of Ipsos in Scotland, commented as the SNP leadership contest nears its close, neither Humza Yousaf nor Kate Forbes has managed to open up a clear lead among the party's voters. Though, of course, it is the party membership who will decide. Meanwhile, as Nicola Sturgeon prepares to step down as First Minister, she remains much better regarded by the public than any of the three candidates to succeed her or any of the other Scottish party leaders. Scottish Labour have had a spring in their step in recent weeks, but these findings indicate the party has work to do if they're to substantially improve their ratings among the Scottish public. Yes, of course, Labour had the Aberdeen by-election and did very well there. But one wonders if that's a resurgence of Labour or just sort of fatigue of the SNP. Probably a little bit of both going on. But that's there. So what they are saying in summary is Kate Forbes very popular with the people, but among the SNP, not that dissimilar a way. There's only a percentage in it in terms of the voting indication between her and Yousaf, with Yousaf very slightly ahead. However, and this is why I said it's likely going to be Forbes, Ash Regan, the voters who vote for Ash Regan as her, for her to be first choice, their second choice is key. Now, the people who vote for Ash Regan will be the ones who will look at her stance on gender reform, look at her resignation from cabinet over this policy. They will be the ones swayed by that. And of the two other candidates, one is for the gender recognition and one is against. And that is why the general feeling is that the number two choice for Ash Regan's votes will be Kate Forbes. Overwhelmingly Kate Forbes. So even if Humza gets slightly more first choice votes, the gap between him and Kate will be sufficiently small that Ash Regan's second choice votes will swamp it and push Kate Forbes through as the winner. That's the indication. That's what I've been told. But it apparently is knife edge close, but it is coming down on the side of Kate Forbes, and we will find out on Monday afternoon. But that's what I've been informed, that it's going to be Kate Forbes. It's fag paper thin. It is really, really tight. Anyway, I shall round this bit off. We'll come up and finish the video. So with just a few days to go, they'll be out there. They'll be banging doors. They'll be knocking people up. They'll be phone calling. They'll be emailing. They'll be begging for votes. But it is very close. But I think ultimately, what I was told with Kate Forbes getting it on the second preference from the Ash Regan voters stands to be reasonably right, and it looks like that will be the direction of travel. So I think that come Monday afternoon you will have Kate Forbes as the new leader of the SNP and probably going to be declared as First Minister of Scotland. And if that's the case, Humza Yousaf is out. You'll have a new Health Secretary, and let us hope that whoever takes over will actually do the job and do something about the hospitals, the waiting list, the terrible, terrible problems all over the NHS, and actually, not just be another catalogue of failure that Humza Yousaf has been in every role he's had. Anyway, I shall round off there. This is a rather long video, but I shall round off there. So thank you very much for watching. Well, I won't push for everything else I pushed at the beginning. So until next time, stay safe, stay well, keep your fingers crossed, and goodbye.